The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
So let me tell you, folks, if you click on the live stream, and you can get there at 1330weby.com or carlgallops.com, listen live link. If you click on it, and you get an error page or a blank page, or it just is not working, it's because of one of two reasons. It's either an absolute slam dunk user overload situation, which could be, and I mean, we've upgraded and we've got huge bandwidth, but I mean, this is a very popular show, and with Mike Zullo on today, it's even more popular, so it could be that it's just slammed that way. Plus, we have had cyber attacks before, and we've been threatened with them. Mike and I are aware of that might happen today. So for those of you that are able to listen, let me tell you this so that you can jump on Facebook and tweet and let people know, on Twitter, and let people know the different options they have. First of all, of course, they can listen by radio. We cover 4 states on the Gulf Coast, so if you're in the Gulf Coast area, you can hear us. But otherwise, if you can't get on the live stream, if you'll jump on Facebook and Twitter and let people know, if they will go to tuninradio.com, and or download the app, TuneIn Radio app, on their smartphone. We do know that is up. Various folks are listening and telling us that they're listening on their smartphones live right now, and so I think you can listen on the internet that way as well. So those are options. Now, if that doesn't work, then do not fret, because tomorrow you'll be able to go to carlgallops.com, click on the podcast link, and download the whole show or any portions thereof. Listen to whatever you want, anytime you want. Plus, I know Mike Shoesmith over at PP Simmons is going to be making video/audios of this entire program and pasting and posting all over the internet on PP Simmons YouTube, the 4 or 5 PP Simmons Facebook properties, the PP Simmons blog spot, which is syndicated to 20 different news sites, etc. So we'll probably have them available up at carlgallops.com as well. So if folks are missing the show live right now, I'm so sorry. It's just that popular of a show. Don't worry, because you'll be able to hear it all tomorrow. Now, for those of you that are calling in, here are the ground rules. We got an hour and a half, so we've got several lines, and they roll over. If you call and the lines are busy, just my advice is to put it in your what's it called, speed dial, your line memory. Put it in speed dial, and whenever you hear somebody ask a question and or hang up, then you just punch it and try to get in right behind them. If you get in the queue, be patient and hang on, because Mike's going to be answering questions, and he's going to answer them thoroughly, and plus we'll have a few commercial breaks. So, just because you're in the queue doesn't mean you're going to be up in 5 seconds. It might be 5 minutes before you're up. But if you'll hang on and be patient, we'll get you live on the air. Now, the only rule that I have is that no personal attacks. I mean, I've got my finger on the button here, the off button. If somebody calls up and just starts calling names and trashing Mike or me, I'm just going to cut you off, and we're going to move on. But everyone else, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can disagree with this whole thing that Mike is doing and Arpaio is doing and that I'm doing. And you call and tell us why, though. Ask questions. I mean, tell us why. Give us evidence. You can agree, you can disagree. There might be things you're confused about, things you would like more information on, things that you'd like cleared up, questions you have. That's why Mike Zullo's here. He has nothing to hide. I have nothing to hide. We can tell you who does have something to hide, and we're going to tell you the evidence that we've come upon lately, and things that may be getting ready to happen very soon. We'll tell you all of that. There are going to be revelations throughout this show. There's going to be some surprising information, so you don't want to miss any of it. All right, I've said all that. Now, Mike Zullo, let me just ask you, let's go ahead and do this right up front. We're going to pretend like that a bunch of our listeners really know very little about all of this. And so I'm just going to ask you, tell people who you are. Tell them about your background. Tell them about your qualifications, how you got involved in this, and what your position is. I mean, what do you do in this? Who are you? Tell folks.
Carl, I'm a former law enforcement officer from New Jersey. I was a detective in New Jersey. I was a trained investigator. I was trained in New Jersey in fingerprint identification, narcotics investigation, homicide investigation, and as a matter of fact, took one of the very first domestic violence investigation courses that were offered when that was, becoming law. After my stint with New Jersey, I became a licensed investigator in the state of New Jersey. in 2005, I believe it was, I joined the sheriff's posse after I moved to Arizona. And subsequently in 2007, I was asked by Sheriff Arpaio if I would head up a newly formed cold case posse that he was starting. And for those of you who don't know, posse is a volunteer organization.
Mm-hmm.
You take people with certain skill sets, and the sheriff's office supplements their own forces with these folks. As a result of accepting the sheriff's offer, I received AZ post-certified training again in homicide investigation in Arizona, cold case investigation in Arizona, MCSO trained in investigative techniques, including surveillance and counter-surveillance, and high-risk criminal apprehension training. I am currently the commander of the cold case posse going on 7 years, and I'm Sheriff Arpaio's chief investigator on the salvability issue.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. So you're a cop.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, you are. You are. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. I know people have asked me, and I've been real close on nailing that, but that's great. I even learned a few things about you there. That's awesome, Mike. I appreciate that. Let me say to our callers, listen, we're going to go straight to the lines because the lines have been jammed for the last 2 hours, but let me just say to our callers now, we're going to start taking these calls, and Mike's going to start answering these questions, but we're going to just ask you to do this. Limit the call to one question, okay? Don't come on and pontificate. Don't come on and for 30 minutes think you're going to give us your comments or your observations. That would be unfair to the rest of our listeners. Just come on, ask your question, state your case, and then get off the line, let Mike answer it, and let somebody else call in, all right? Let's do it that way. All right, we've got a caller named Mike who wants to talk to the investigator named Mike, and Mike, you want to talk to Mike about what's going on in Hawaii. Welcome to Freedom Friday.
Yes, thank you, Carl, and thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
And thank both of you for going to CPAC last week.
Oh, God bless you.
Thank you.
Mike, I wanted to ask you, when the White House issued that phony forged birth certificate on the White House website, there was a letter that was also, along with that, from Obama's attorneys and Obama, and he requested to the state of Hawaii a copy of his birth certificate. And the governor responded with a letter that we don't normally do this, but in your case, we'll release a copy of your birth certificate. Are you investigating any of the aspects of those letters?
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, Mike, we are. As a matter of fact, I could add a little clarity to that. The letters that were issued were in response to Hawaii's standing practice, I believe back in the year 2000. They made a decision to no longer issue long-form birth certificates. And this was not done by any legislative action. This was done by policy. And the administration requested a long form on behalf of the president. Now, you know, they're making a big deal out of this. If you look at Hawaii statutes, it is permissible to issue a long form birth certificate. All this really was nothing more than a change in policy or a deviation from policy.
Right.
There was no big, extensive legal analysis that really had to be done. As a matter of fact, I believe within issuing the letter, he got a long-form birth certificate purportedly released within 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, so this notion that this was an impossibility is really being hyped. It's really not.
Right.
It's nothing more than a request. And I also understand that anyone can make the request. It's up to the director of the Department of Health to honor it or not.
Right. And certainly the man who's sitting in the White House as POTUS could have his attorney's request, and certainly that request would be honored.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, Mike, listen, let's go back to the phone lines, and they're still jammed. Folks, when you hear people ask a question and hang up, that's your chance to hit that redial. Let's go to John. John, welcome to Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups. You want to ask Lieutenant Zullo something about the grand jury. John? John, are you there? Okay. See, that's what happens, folks, when you're not patient. Listen, folks, let me just say this. If you're not willing to be patient, please don't call and tie up the lines, okay? But in the meantime, we've got some lines open, and we've got more people on the line, and Mallory's still doing some screening. So, Mike, let me just ask you, when you were asked by Sheriff Arpaio to come on as the lead investigator for this case, the specific thing you were asked was to take a look at that long-form birth certificate that was finally released by the White House, and Obama stated that this is it, it's on the website, that's my birth certificate. He did that in a nationally televised press conference, and then, of course, later on, people began looking at it, and it looked like it was forged or fraudulent, and so Sheriff Arpaio, tell the folks how you got involved. Why did Arpaio get involved, and why did you get involved in that?
Sheriff Arpaio was actually put into a corner on this way by about some folks from a surprise Tea Party here in Arizona, where they commissioned 250 folks to sign petitions requesting that the sheriff look into the birth certificate. They felt that this birth certificate had some problems with it, and they were in fear that their voting rights were going to be violated. Mm-hmm. Arpaio looked at this, didn't really know anything about the matter, took it under advisement, and as fate would have it, one morning I get a call to come in and see the sheriff. I go in and see him, and he explains this to me. And, you know, Sheriff Arpaio looked me right dead in the eye, and he goes, Mike, I don't really think there's anything here, but if we can clear the president, let's clear the president and move on. The country needs to move on from this. Mm-hmm. So that's how we took it. Okay. And that's how we got here.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. And it's my understanding that you even had folks on the cold case posse at first that were, you know, big Obama supporters and kind of snickered a little bit and said, well, this will be easy to deal with. Surely the man in the White House doesn't have a fraudulent birth certificate up there. We ought to be able to handle this pretty quickly. I know I'm paraphrasing, but didn't something like that happen?
Yeah, we never picked anybody to work on this in the very beginning. Based on political affiliation or likes or dislikes. Right. As it unfolded, we found out where some of these people stood. And I myself, I was never following this. I mean, I heard about it. Right. I was not a political junkie. I never followed politics. I didn't think this thing was false either, to be candid with you. It was about 72 hours later that I had to call the sheriff and tell him I think we have a problem. Right. And that's how we ended up in this almost now 18, 19th month investigation. I think it's going closer to 2 years. Yeah, it's very close to it. All right, I think we've got John back on the line. John, welcome to Freedom Friday. Sorry we missed you a minute ago, but I'm glad you're back. You want to talk about grand juries. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, Lieutenant. How you doing, Pastor?
Thank you. Doing great.
It's an honor to speak with you guys. Real quick, I just wanted to know why, with all the evidence that has been compiled, that a citizen's grand jury or a federal grand jury hasn't been assembled to take care of this problem and review the evidence that you guys have and just eliminate the situation.
Okay, thank you so much, John. Mike, what do you know about citizens' grand juries, and would they have any jurisdiction or power in this? I mean, how does that work? Do you know anything about that?
You know, what little I do know, I know that there is provision for a citizens' grand jury. I believe Justice Scalia recognized them in some opinion somewhere. But to be really candid with you, I think they would be more symbolic than anything else. And we have to be cautious as a law enforcement organization. We don't want to take our information, our evidence, and just put it out there for a symbolic gesture. Right. That's not what we're here to do. Right. I mean, we wouldn't be pursuing this if we didn't believe full-heartedly that we have the evidence required to drive the stake in the heart of this document. Right, right. And we're just not going to throw it out there just because someone desires to symbolize, you know, a patriotic act. As much as I could appreciate that, we just can't do that. Right, right. No, I understand that completely, and I'm so glad he asked that question, and I'm so glad you answered it. Let's go back to the phone lines. Shirley, welcome to Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups and Mike Zullo. You have a question about Congress for Lieutenant Zullo. Go ahead, Shirley.
Yes, Mike. I mean, I'm not sitting here idle. I have faxed my senator. I faxed the prosecuting attorney. I've even sent emails to Inquirer that says, you've read it here first. I've accused him of running John Kerry with his child, Lorenzi Larraz. I said, here's some news. Why don't you print it? I said, here's the facts. And I also know that Senator Blunt has known about this 41,000 people that impeach Obama because he made a remark on the other lady that's trying to, Oli or whatever. He made a remark when it came to 41,000. Here's my question. In Alan West, I heard that interview. If the Senate knows it, and the Congress knows it, and the House knows it, why do they keep bartering deals with him when it's void? He's not our president. Why do they keep doing this? I mean, everything that he's done has to be undone. He's not.
Thank you, Shirley. I'm sorry. Okay, Mike, do you have an answer for? And then I tell you what, Mike, hold your answer. We've got to take a break. Okay, Mike?
Okay.
Okay, fantastic. We'll answer Shirley's question on the other side of this break.